Alright. This is the first ever. By the way, hello everybody, my name is Hardy Girl. Welcome to this channel's first ever story time with Hardy and Friendos. Now, tonight's story is called A Horror to Behold, and this is written by your very own Zherron Himself. He is one that joins me. He is my co-streaming buddy for Dead by Daylight, and this story has been a long time in the process. It's finally done. I've read it from start to end. Guys, this guy is amazing when it comes to writing. Now, I've written this down in the description below, but I will not be speaking. I will be in chat, and I will also be scrolling through the story as best as I can while listening to make sure that you guys can see what I can see and what he is seeing while he's reading. Does that kind of make sense? It's like a mindfuck. But anyways, chat. You deserve it, Zherron. You are an amazing writer. But anyways, chat, I hope you enjoy. We're gonna have some fun. And after this, I will be streaming for a short while with the man himself, with Dead by Daylight. So I'll end this stream, and then I'll start up a new one for like an hour, maybe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Alrighty. Got everything set up and ready to rock and roll? Alrighty. A Horror to Behold by Zherron Himself. Chapter 1. Fog and Fire. I awoke to the gentle breeze in the trees and the damp grass beneath me. I look around and take in the foggy woods around me and take in a deep breath. I have no idea how I got here in the first place, nor where this place is. The woods seem almost closing in on me. I stand up and begin to walk aimlessly. After a bit of walking, there is a faint light ahead. It grows bigger as I approach. A campfire emerges from the fog, along with people gathered around it. They all look up at my approach with tired expressions. You got... Welcome to hell, one says with a grim half smirk on his face. He is a rugged man with a scar across his face and a buzz cut. Shut up, David, one of the girls says, slightly pissed off. What you gonna do, Nia? Nia shakes her head and walks away with her arms crossed towards a log near the fire. She sits down and picks up a can of spray paint near her and tosses it in between her hands. Don't mind them. We all have just had a very difficult time in here, a dark-skinned girl says to me as she approaches. My name is Claudette. What's yours? Michael. However, a lot of people call me Zherron. After saying my name, a blonde-haired girl nearby shudders. We're going to call you Zherron, because we already know Michael. Who's this other Michael? I ask as I look around. A couple of people are scattered around the campfire and just before the edge of the woods. Is it one of those guys? No, but I'm sure you'll meet him sometime soon, the blonde says with a grim look on her face as she turns it and begins pacing around the fire. I look at the other people hanging around the fire and scattered about. There's one more girl and 4 more guys. What's everyone else's names here? I ask Claudette. Bill, Dwight, Meg, Jake, and Ace. Bill is the older man in the military uniform. Dwight, the nervous guy with the glasses. Meg is the redhead in the running outfit. Jake is the scruffier-looking guy with the green jacket. Ace is the middle-aged man in the ball cap and sunglasses. Min's around here somewhere, looking for a way out again, but she'll stumble back, just like always. You've already met Lori, David, and Nia. What is in here exactly? I don't know. This place is except... I don't know what this place is, except there seems to be no way out, and normal laws of nature don't apply. This fire never runs out of wood, and we never get hungry. We also never die when we should have. Just as she says this, the wind picks up and a faint whispering can be heard within it. Jake, Dwight, Meg, David, Zherron, the voice says hauntingly. Those with their names called begin to stand and stretch before wandering into the woods one by one. I ain't saving your arses again if you get caught doing something stupid, David says. The others ignore him and disappear into the fog. Why are they leaving? I ask. Because it's their turn, just like it is yours. However, I don't know why the being chose 5 people this time. Usually it's only 4 people, and to be honest, it kind of makes me worried as to why, because there might be something's planned. What I'm afraid of is every time we get a newcomer with us, there always is a new one of them as well we have to deal with, Bill says sullenly to us just as we hear a rustling in the brush. A girl emerges from the woods with reddish-purple hair looking around confused. Is that Min, I presume? No, I haven't seen that one. That's a new one. I haven't seen more than one newcomer at a time, Claudette says. Where am I? The new girl says. Zherron, the voice exclaims. I'll explain to her what I know. Zherron, you better get going, Claudette says, shooing me away. Chapter 2. Blood and Burns. The fog enveloped me once again as I wandered into the dark woods. After a few minutes of walking, it begins to thin out, and I see I have arrived at an old metal shack in the woods. The metal has twisted and rusted, and there are gaps within the walls. Something about it sparked my interest as I approached. I went inside, saw a few boxes with a wooden pallet leaning against them. The pallet reminded me of the ones I worked with, and I remember all the stinking splinters they gave. I throw the pallet down and break it with the throw, surprising myself at how weak it really was. I look over the pieces of wood and chuckle myself a little at the amusement of breaking it. There's a chest right next to the broken pallet, pieces on the other wall. There's a few faded red painted lockers not too far away from some stairs headed down below the shack. My curiosity gets the better of me, and again I walk down the stairs slowly and turn a corner. There seems to be some sort of basement. However, not any normal basement I've ever seen. It has multiple lockers like the ones upstairs. However, in the center is a large wooden structure with 4 metal meat hooks hanging off of it. There's a considerable amount of dried blood and caked blood on the floor surrounding the structure. Welcome home, my new champion. The voice echoes inside my head. Who are you? What do you want from me? What do you mean by champion? I ask. No response. I walk around the basement to look more and think. My shoes stick to the dried and partially dried blood like dried soda in a movie theater. After satisfying my curiosity, I begin to make my way up and out when I hear footsteps above me. I peer around the corner, up the stairs, and see David rummaging around with the chest upstairs. What you up to, Davy boy? I ask. He glares at me. Want me to bust your lip? Now shut your mouth. We still don't know who 'tis we are up against. I seen Meg and Jake already, but not Dwight. Someone looking for me? A voice coming from one of the nearby lockers says cautiously. It slowly creeps open, and Dwight peeks out, looking jittery as ever. What you doing, you coward? We're out here risking our necks, and all you doing is hiding? I like to wait until I know who is hunting us, David. So Zherron, you find anything down there? Dwight asks while gesturing towards the basement stairs. I found a lot of blood and some meat hooks. Anything I should have been looking for in particular? Tools, a med kit, flashlight, key, or anything really to help us survive this trial. No, I didn't see anything like that down there, I'm afraid. Dwight frowns, and David stands up holding a flashlight he found in the chest. I think it's bright enough outside. You won't need that, I say. No, it blinds the hunters, Dwight says. What hunters? Where are they? I don't know, but it's been way too quiet for a trial. I'm worried something is up. Just as Dwight says this, the roof of the shack dissolves away like paper in a fire. In the sky, a writhing mass of tentacle-like claws emerges down. Dwight runs away, and David grabs my arm tight and jerks me away. We run as fast as we can, but I trip over some roots from a tree we passed. I look down and see it wasn't a root at all, but instead the claws were coming from the ground as well. I look up only to see the sharp end of one of the claws charge at me and puncture my torso. I gasp from the pain and force it delivered. It lifts me into the air, and the other claws move in towards me as well. This is my domain. You will obey me, the voice exclaims loudly. I look at the writhing mass of claws, and from somewhere within, a bright liquid drools down onto my face. It burns, and I yell in pain. Dwight and David look up in horror. David grabs a large stick nearby and tries to climb one of the trees to help me escape, but Dwight stops him. He's gone! He's going to be one of them, Dwight yells. David reluctantly lets go of the tree and stick. They both run into the forest looking for a means of survival. The pain from the claw in my chest and the burning from the liquid is all I can think about while I'm suspended in the air. Then, something clicks. Yes. It all makes so much more sense now. I know what I must do. I accept the pain and relish the burning. This is my motivation, and my punishment if I don't succeed. I will succeed and make the master proud. I am slowly lowered back down to the ground as my master can sense my change of heart. I look down and notice an object on the ground before me. I pick it up by the handle and take a long gaze at it. It starts from a handle piece, then innumerable links of bladed chains connect out, forming a bladed chain whip. I wrap a portion of the bladed chains around my hand and the handle and let them dig into my skin. As my own blood oozes onto my hand, the new whip and I feel a connection in the chains themselves. This weapon is now a part of me, and I will use it to bring pain in the others and to myself to motivate nothing less than the perfection in the art of killing. Chapter 3. Fear of the Unknown. The campfire crackled loudly as myself and the others waited for our trial. They seemed nervous about something, but to be honest, I am worried too. I have no idea what to expect in there, as these people have all been in there countless times, yet they are worried. Claudette runs over to me, anxious. They should be returning soon. The ones who left right as I got here? I asked. Yeah, the trials don't last for very long, but they do a number on you even if you do survive them. How many people has been killed here before I got here? Well, it's hard to explain. Technically, no one has been killed, but I have died numerous times in there. When you are killed, you simply find yourself walking back here from the fog, only to do it again in a few hours. Ugh, my head hurts, I say as I try to process everything. There had been too much information thrown at me so fast. I go and sit down, closer to the fire to get warm. Its dancing flames seem to soothe and bring a little bit of hope to me as I gaze into its glow. Just as I was starting to relax, I hear yelling. They're back, Nia explains as Dwight emerges from the fog. What happened? Who was it this time? You find any clues how to get us out of this place? Lori asks. Dwight looks paler than normal. He sways a bit, then collapses. Claudette and I rush to help him. After helping him lay on his back, I see the scars. But more worrying was the fresh weeping gashes on his stomach and side. He's going to be all right, right? I ask. Claudette frowns. These lacerations are not made from any of the hunter's weapons we've seen before. This means there's a new one. Dwight stutters. Entity corrupted. He blacks out from the blood loss and excruciating pain. Claudette gasps. Did he say the entity corrupted Zer? As in Zherron? Zherron Vorse? One of my online buddies? I ask. You know Zherron? We just met him and he's sent in with Dwight and the 3 others. I was worried there was a 5th one sent, but guess I know why now. Jake and Meg emerge from the fog, with Meg helping hold Jake up as he walks, with her arm around him and his arm around her shoulders. They slowly make their way to a log and Meg helps Jake down. Jake has cuts all over, but Meg is unscathed. This new hunter must be more brutal than the others we have encountered. He did a number on you, Jake, and Dwight is out cold, Bill says. He saw me, but didn't even move a muscle in my direction. But when Jake came up with me to the door, he caught him with that chain of his and dragged him back. I was the only survivor ever. However, David got the worst of it, Meg states. Everyone goes quiet, worrying about the new hunter they are going to be facing, but the silence becomes deafening when it sinks in that David still has not returned. Ace and Bill look at each other and decide to go into the fog a bit and see if he's unconscious in there or something. They emerge back from the fog, dragging David out. His neck has a large puncture in it through the spine and blood is oozing out. "He's dead?" I ask. David stirs at the noise and slowly opens his eyes. The hole in his neck and spine slowly begin to close shut as he awakens. "How is this possible? He should be dead," I say. "The entity won't let us die. This campfire serves as a resting point for us, but also rejuvenates us for the next trial, no matter how bad our injuries were. The pain and torture never ends. Death is not an escape," Jake says coldly. "How could Zherron have done this?" I ask. "The entity has corrupted him and formed him into one of his champions. And from the looks of it, he is just as lethal and dangerous as the others," Bill says. I take a step back and marvel at the brutal precision of the cuts and lacerations all over their bodies. Zherron seems ruthless, but at the same time I know why Meg wasn't attacked. Zherron's always been kind of protective of girls in general and won't ever hurt one unless seriously provoked or influenced. I just hoped he isn't corrupted anymore to where he will not differentiate between his victims. "Hardy, Lori, Nia, Ace," the entity commands. "Alright, ladies, let's get these rears in gear and show this new hunter we ain't easy prey," Ace declares with a smirk. Chapter 4. Trials of Pain. We leave the fog and find ourselves at the entrance to a large building. We enter the wide open front door, and I glance at a sign on the way in. Larry's Memorial Institute. I look around as the others begin to search for stuff. The walls are tattered and cracked. The outer wall has holes in it and letting some of the cold air in from outside with small flurries of snow. I shiver and hear Ace say behind me, "Young lady, do you even know what to do in these trials?" I shake my head no. "Well, follow me. The other ladies and I could use some help." He turns and walks towards the other two who are starting to work on a large generator. "How can I help with that? I don't know how to fix that thing." "You don't have to know how. Just touch it and you will realize you do know how to repair it. The entity chose this as to be our method of escape, and it wants everyone to have a chance. It revels in the game." I give him a quizzical look and then kneel to begin the work. The moment my hands touch the belts and gears, I feel like I'm at home working on editing a video. It's all so easy. Just change the spark plug, realign the belt, reconnect the fuel line. I feel something wrong. A sensation crawls over my skin like an insect, and I stop working and look around. The others take notice of this. "What's wrong, Hardy?" Lori asks. "I don't know. Something just feels wrong." The three of them exchange looks and immediately stop working. "Come on, let's get out of here." They all run, and I break into a run and try to keep up. We all run into a room with hospital beds and a locker or so. "Why are we running just because I have a funny feeling?" I ask. The entity amplifies our survival instincts, and some people develop almost supernatural senses they never knew that they had. You have a gift we call Premonition. You know when danger is coming before it gets here, Ace explains. "I think we're being watched," Lori interrupts. I felt this shiver down my spine. We look around, and I glance out one of the windows within the room. In the distance, there is a man standing there, with a face as pale as death and a dark jumpsuit as the night. He is holding a rather large kitchen knife and is simply just staring at us. I feel my body shake as I yell, "Look!" The others turn to what I am pointing. "Run!" Lori yells. We all split and run in different directions. Lori and I run together, and I glance behind me. The shape in the distance walks towards us, keeping his soulless eyes on us. I turn a corner and realize I didn't see where Lori went. I panic and hide in the locker. I hear loud footsteps approach and heavily muffled breathing. Through the little hole in the locker, I can see the masked man walk past the locker. I try to be as quiet as I can, but I'm out of breath. I hear screaming. Then the man walks back into the room, dragging Lori on the ground. "Michael, stop! Let me go! I didn't do anything to you!" He halts, then releases her leg. He looks at her as she starts to crawl away, leaving a blood trail on the floor. He then picks her up by the throat. Between the gasps for air, Lori forcefully says, "Stop!" Michael leans close to her, then buries his knife into her side. Lori tries to stop him, but doesn't succeed. He removes the knife and then stabs her again. Lori stops gasping and resisting. He holds her there for a moment and looks into her lifeless eyes, then throws her warm corpse down onto the ground with a soft thud. He leaves the corpse and doesn't give it another glance. My heart sinks and those moments pass. I hold back the tears and slowly open the locker door. Step out and look down at Lori. Her lifeless eyes stare through me. I lean over and close them for her as a tear escapes from one of mine. I wipe it away and look around. In the doorway, he is standing there, looking at me with blood still dripping from his knife. I scream and immediately run with his pounding footsteps following behind. I feel a sudden sharp pain in my back as I almost collapse from it, but I press on. I glance behind me and see a trail of blood droplets following me. I start to get dizzy, and since I seem to have lost him, I stop to catch my breath and see if I can do anything to stop the bleeding. Ace enters the room and sees my back. He got you good, didn't he? Nice work on escaping him for now, though. Let me patch you up. We got everything done all right. All we have to do is escape now. He takes some medical tape and gauze from a first aid kit he is holding and tries the best to stop the bleeding from the wound, but to no avail. I'm afraid I'm not the best with this sort of thing. If Claudette were here, she would fix you right up. I'll cover you if I can, and let's make a run for the exit. I clench my teeth and nod. That's a good girl. Now follow me. He walks to the door and peeks aside, then gestures for me to come. We traverse the hallways and in between blood-stained hospital beds. We hear another scream, and then silence. I shudder, and we round a corner and see the exit gate wide open. I almost shout with joy at seeing the escape so close. I start to run for it, but then Grace grabs my shoulder hard, pulling me back. Stop, he whispers intensely. Look. He points around the corner, and then I see it. Nia's dead hand on the ground, barely visible from behind the exit gate with blood around it. I think Michael's waiting for us there, but we have no choice. If we try to find another escape, he may change his mind and go search for us and find us there. Tell you what, I'm going to run at first, and hopefully he attacks me and not you. I begin to protest, but he bolts towards the exit. Just as he passes the gate, and I see a hand grab Ace. Run, Hardy! Ace yells as best as he could. I run past them both as Ace is stabbed just like Lori was. I run out and into the fog with tears in my eyes and knots in my stomach. Upon reaching the campfire again, I feel its effects begin to heal my back almost immediately, and I sigh at the relief. Lori, Nia, and Ace emerge from the fog, beaten and bloody. For a moment I am surprised to see them alive again, but then I remember what I was told, and the reality of this place finally begins to sink in. I'll take a drink real quick. Chapter 5. Fresh Prey. I haven't had to re-enter the trial for about a day now. The others seem confused by that, saying it's unusual for someone to go so long without having to go through one. They seem more nervous than ever because the entity is starting to become less predictable, and it is more apparent than ever that it is up to something sinister. A new survivor stumbles into our little hollow in the woods. She looks familiar to me, dark hair with pale skin and pretty blue eyes. What's your name? Min asks the newcomer. Many of my friends call me Zaya, she answers. Zaya? That's why you look so familiar. It's me, Hardy, I exclaim excitedly. Hardy, what is this place? What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Zaya asks. After some explaining and catching up, Hardy and I begin to pace around the perimeter of the clearing. So, these hunters or killers or whatever you call them, Zherron has become one of them? I ask. I'm afraid that is how it appears. I haven't seen him since I got here, and I didn't realize that was him because he is headed into the trial the moment I got here. Why are there so many people here who have never met until they got here, and yet there is at least 3 people from our group of friends here? I don't know. The others think the entity is up to something, and I'm nervous simply because of how the experienced veterans of this place are scared. I shake my head. A mild headache is setting in from all the information. It makes sense, but it's still a lot to take in. Saya, Min, Hardy, Bill. I assume that means it's time for us to leave, I ask. Afraid so, Min says, walking past us. We leave the fog and enter my first trial. It looks like a calm suburban area. There is a cop car in the street with its lights flashing, but no siren. Apart from the slight breeze and the rustle, the leaves, it is silent and serene. I see Min in the distance, and I creep my way over to her, trying to avoid being seen by anyone. I see her working on a generator in the backyard, and I go to help her. She jumps when she sees me. Gosh, Zaya, don't scare me like that. I almost blew the generator. I smile at her and begin helping. Hardy was right. It becomes natural working on one of these. We finish the generator and quickly make our way to hiding spots and look out for the killer. No one shows up. So, we continue into a neighboring house with flickering lights. We find a generator inside and begin to work on it as well. Then a male scream pierces the silence. An image enters my mind. Something sharp. Rusty. A hook? Yeah, it's a hook. Min looks over at me. Bill is hooked, the entity told us. Now the choice is, do we go save him or risk being caught and continue working to save ourselves? That is the game of the entity. Hope and the lack of it. Death and betrayal. Greed or altruism. Okay, too much rambling. You go get him, I'll stay and work on this, I say. Alright, but be careful, we don't know who we are facing yet, Min says as she leaves. After a minute or so, a sense of relief fills me and the hook image in my head goes away. Bill is saved, I think. I finish my second generator and go search for another. I exit the house and head along the sidewalk, crashing behind any cover I can along the way. I see an orange glowing line in the distance, then a loud scream. I see the line is actually some kind of molten chain. It is wrapped around Bill's leg and digging into his thigh. The chain moves more like a living tentacle than a chain or a whip. The chain arcs like a cat's back and lifts Bill high into the air, then slams him into the ground and drags him away through an alley between two houses. The screaming stops suddenly, and everything is quiet again. I decide to go and see who we are dealing with, and sneak my way over through the alley and see Bill. He is on a hook hanging there, but the hook is through his mouth and coming out the back of his neck. It also has scorched cuts along his leg and torso. I hear a clanging sound and turn to see the chain creeping away from me. When I'm this close, I can see the chain itself has sharpened edges all the way down it, with bits of charred blood and flesh stuck in the links. My eyes travel along the chain and see who is holding it. A tall figure with a gray, tattered short robe on. His arms have no sleeves, and the chain is gouged into his right arm with the handle of it firmly locked into his hand. The robe goes just below his knees, but he isn't wearing anything to protect his feet. His face is covered slightly with a tattered hood, but underneath the hood his face is difficult to make out. The most peculiar thing about him is the glowing yellow/orange vertical streaks on his face and hood. The chain creeps around his arm, with only about 3 or so feet dangling to the ground. He walks away and begins searching for someone else to kill. In the distance he sees something, and the chain around his arm begins to glow hot again. He throws his arm out and the chain comes to life, springing from his arm and seeming to grow in length. It soars through the air with no regard to gravity and wraps around someone in the distance. I hear another scream, but this time a female one. He inks her about halfway to him and keeps her ensnared and slowly walks up to her. I gasp as I realize it's Hardy. She struggles to free herself, but the searing pain is too debilitating. This hunter, this torturer, walks up to her and looks at her and tilts his head. I hear him mumble something. Then he begins to release Hardy from the chain. "What are you doing?" I hear the entity scream. "I will not harm nor kill a woman," the torturer yells back. Just as these words leave his mouth, the glowing stripes on his head begin to glow and sizzle with the steam coming off of them. The torturer screams in pain and yells, "No! You can't make me! You can't make... Yes. Yes, master." The stripes stop glowing and he looks at Hardy running away. He cracks his neck to the side, then sends his grim chain airborne after her and catches her again. He tracks her back a second time, and I feel a rage filling inside me. I clench my fists and stand to my feet. Just then I feel a hand on my shoulder. Min holds me back and says, "Don't do anything. You can't fight him. I found a sliver of hope. A key. We can get out of here right now." "I'll fight him with my bare fists," I exclaim furiously. "He'll just kill you. That's what he's designed for now. If I'm not mistaken, that is Zherron now. David told me what his weapon was." I feel a sense of horror as I realize that what the entity has done to my friend. "Zherron! That is Hardy you have in your chain!" I yell at him. Zherron stops and looks into Hardy's eyes. He begins to release her again, then the stripes glow again, and instead of releasing her, the chain wraps around her more and more. He raises her into the air, and the chains start to dig into her body as she screams. They dig in deep, and Zherron flicks the chain forward, ripping her out of the blades and throwing her against the cop car with a banging as she hits her head on the door. She doesn't make a noise. Zherron flicks the blood off his chain and looks over at us, and the blades begin to glow hot again. Min pulls me down as it soars towards us and flies over our head. Zherron pulls it back and begins walking towards us with an unholy glare on his face. "Come on, Zaya!" We run, and she opens a hatch with the key and jumps into the black mist inside. I look down at it and then feel a hot sting in my back. I jump in before the chain can wrap around me and escape. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alright, you're good. Chapter 6. Killing Time. The shack seems smaller than it did since the last time I came here. Of course, I wasn't as gifted as I am now, thanks to Master. When I was on the praise side, I didn't know about the secrets within the shack itself. It's so simple, really. The entity uses these shacks as a way for us hunters to begin our hunts. The basement itself is more than it is meets the eye. Any hunter can detect the latch to open the second set of stairs. Much like the black lock or hatch as those cursed prey use to escape. These secret stairs are shrouded in a black mist. Only a few steps in and you will find yourself in a large room with places for us to rest between hunts. It is simple, with cots around the perimeter of the room and a few tables in the corner. One corner doesn't have any cots at all and instead has a workstation with tools and torture tools for us to use and experiment with. Most of us can't stand each other, so we simply ignore each other, leaving the room in almost a permanent silence. I see Philip and Michael sitting at the chess set that Herman has set up. Philip slowly leans forward and moves a rook with his cloth-wrapped hand as Michael sits perfectly still, just staring at him through the boogeyman mask. Herman stands behind them, breathing loudly with his permanent smile and stare, taking in every moment of the game. I walk over to inspect who is winning. Currently it seems to be Philip winning, but Michael has his usual emotionless expression and body language. I hear a stone scraping across metal, and turn to see Evan sitting on a cot, sharpening his metal flail. His bone mask is sitting next to him as he works. In the opposite corner of the room, Max and Thomas are refilling their chainsaws and swapping out chains for them. Anna and Lisa return a few moments later from picking flowers outside. They seem to be getting along fine when it comes to flowers in nature, at least. Sally blinks in from nowhere and rests her hand on Philip's shoulder. He looks up at her and smiles. I don't think I've ever seen any of the hunters smile. I watch them play for a little while, then make my way to my cot. I pull my hood back and begin to unravel my whip from my arm. As I pull the blades out, the wounds begin to bleed again and drip on my stained white sheets, adding to my collection of blood marks on it. Some of it gets on the floor, but no one pays any attention. Everyone tracks blood in here, and it's all over the floor in many of the cots. While we do have cots, unlike the prey did at their campfire, we don't sleep. We don't need it. Nor do we trust the others who are not part of our many groups. I look up and see Evan glaring at me. Cute jump rope you got there, boy. It gets the job done, at least better than a barbaric trap that anyone with a brain can avoid stepping in. Except, I see scars on your leg that match its teeth perfectly. Best be careful where you step, boy. Judging from the scars, I think it is you who needs to watch where they step. Evan scowls at me and turns away and picks up one of his bear traps. He dismantles the safety and takes the spring out and swap out for a stronger one. I look over at Anna and Lisa, who are sitting down with a pile of flowers, making what appears to be a necklace from it. I grab my whip's handle and let it drag across the floor as I walk over to them to get a closer look. But I step on one of the loose flowers. Anna yells loudly and throws a hatchet at my head. I smack it away with my whip in a fluid motion. Lisa glares up at me, and a catalyst she put down detonates next to me with a hallucination of Lisa standing there angrily. I back off and head to the workstation, with Max and Thomas still working there. I take a honing stone and sit down, back on my cot, and begin sharpening my whip's blades back to the fine edge. Just anything to pass the time. The only ones I seem to get along with are the ones playing chess at the table, and the three of them don't even talk.
Champions, beware. I am bringing fresh prey straight into a trial,
the entity declares to us. Fresh meat that don't even have a warning? This could be a very good opportunity for new experiments, Herman says with a sinister grin. Who will it be who gets this rare indulgence? Who will it be that gets this rare indulgence? Evan asks.
The doctor shall be the one to entertain them. And me,
answers the entity. Herman takes a piece from the chessboard, the iridescent king. He goes to his cot and opens a duffel bag of notes, some interview cassette tapes, and medical equipment. He chooses a high-stimulus electrode to take with him as he grabs his own weapon he calls the stick, a metal rod with small points going out of it on all sides, and then he heads up to the stairs to begin his experiments. Chapter 7, Fresh Minds. I woke up inside a concrete building with portions of the walls missing. I smell smoke, and portions of the wall are charred black from a recent fire. The rubble from the holes in the wall is scattered around my feet, and I almost stumble over it as I struggle to stand up. My back is sore and everything else hurts as well. I look around the building and check out the upstairs, but it's simply just a more burnt down version of the lower level. I look out the large hole in the wall to the grass outside. There are remnants of a structure out there, as well as what appears to be a generator in the yard. I make my way back downstairs and notice a lady laying passed out on the floor. I approach and try to shake her awake. She stirs awake and begins to look around frantically. Where am I? I don't know. I woke up here too. Try to think. What was the last thing you remember? I remember I was headed outside to catch my cat when he ran outside. Then I remember everything getting extremely foggy and I passed out. Sounds like what happened with me, in the fog at least. What's your name? Many of my friends call me Two. Two? It's me, Green. Holy crap, what are you doing here? I don't know any more than you do. Let's see who else we can find. This place looks burned down to me, and I'm not sure how sturdy it is. Two nods, and I help her up. We walk outside into the yard and look around, seeing if we can find anyone else. There's a small rolling fog low to the ground, and crows sitting on debris in the large rocks. I see a head of a man peek out from behind some of the debris, looking at us. Who are you? I shout at him. He steps out and answers back. Many of my friends call me Seabass. How many people from this server? How many people from our server are we going to meet? It's me, Green, and this is 2. What on earth is going on? Seabass asks. We have no idea. We just woke up here. 2 answers with a worried look on her face. Let's keep looking around and see if we can figure out anything. Hey guys! A new guy shouts as he walks up. It's me, Nargenstar. I shake my head. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. How many of us are there here? Looks like it's just us 4, Seabass says. Alright, did anyone else get any clues as to why we're here, or did everyone wake up here just as the same? I ask. Everyone mumbles about waking up in this place. I frown from the lack of information, but before I can ask anything else, a loud crackling voice echoes through the yard. Welcome to the Crotus Pren Asylum. My master has given me a gift. This is the first experiment that I have been able to conduct with test subjects that have no idea what to expect. So, let's see what we can learn today. Let's see what secrets you are all hiding. I look around to see where the voice came from. I look around for where the voice came from. Old loudspeakers on the outside of the building, which I now assume is the asylum. We begin to look for a way out and find a giant gate with a lever. Seabass grabs it and pulls it down, but nothing happens. Maybe it isn't powered, 2 says. Nargenstar nods in agreement. How can we power this, though? Seabass asks. I saw a generator in the yard when 2 and I walked out of the asylum. Let's see if we can get it started, Seabass says. We return to the generator and I brush my hand against it while I look for a plug, switch, or anything. Once I touch it, everything clicks in my head. I think I can fix this. You know how to fix it? 2 asks. No, but yes. Once I touched it, I knew how, but until I did, I had no idea. Seabass tilts his head and then kneels next to me and puts one hand on it as well. Whoa! He begins working on it like he's been doing this his whole life. 2 and Nargenstar look at each other, then join in. This is weird, Nargenstar says. What do you think the voice meant by experiment? This is pretty easy so far, 2 says. Just after she says this, I see a man in a lab coat approaching, and approaching fast at that. He has a big, sinister smile, and then I realize the metal rod he is holding, with the electricity coming off of it, and himself. Run! I yell, pointing at the man. Everyone else looks, sees him fast approaching, and scatters. The man chases Seabass and hits him hard on the back of the head. Seabass stumbles but doesn't fall, despite the blood dripping off his head. Seabass runs past the pallet and throws it down on top of the man. The man whimpers in pain and then breaks the pallet in half to pursue Seabass. However, Seabass has nowhere in sight, and the man begins to look for me. He lowers the metal rod and raises his left arm with his hand in a fist. Electricity pulses off him and I feel waves of energy hit me. I hear a scream, then another. Electricity pulsing fills my mind and I feel wrong. I get an incredible headache and then scream as well from the pain. The man's unending grin seems especially pleased by our suffering and he approaches me. I begin to run as I hear something charge up behind me. I hear a loud noise and feel an incredible surge of electricity course through my body and mind. I scream from the shock and pain of it. I see the man standing in front of me. Somehow, he cuts me off from the entrance to the asylum and I turn around to escape him, only to be met with the cold metal crashing into my skull. Dazed and bleeding, I stumble and seize away, seeing 2 of the men. The one in the doorway fades away, and I realize it was a hallucination. I run around the building, hoping to find another way in. And to my delight, I do. The man stops chasing me, and heads for one of the others. Sorry about that. Getting my words tripped up. Chapter 8. Mind Games. That guy freaks me out. What does he want? We didn't do anything. We all just woke up here. The images. They won't stop. That electric thing he did is messing with me. I can't stop seeing stuff. I feel it pulsing through me again, this time, more intense as he approaches. I try to hide. I hear something charging up and I clench my teeth knowing something bad is coming. Then an electric jolt hits me, and I scream despite my best efforts to stay silent, and then I hear his laugh behind me. I break off running, and after a few moments I find some tall grass and lay down and hide in it. He walks right by me and doesn't even glance in my direction. Alright, that worked better than I planned. This is now my spot, my grove. No one can take it from me. I joke to myself, trying to at least remain halfway calm. I see a chair near a partial wall and I go and open it up. Chest. I see a chest near a partial wall and I go to open it up. There's a rolled up map inside. I take it back and go sit in my spot. Before I can sit down, I feel an excruciating pain in my foot and I yell. I look down and see a large bear trap sinking its teeth into my leg. He trapped it! He trapped my grove! I'd yell in a pained panic. Two comes running up to me and tries to help, then says, Argenstar, there isn't anything there. There isn't? I look down and notice there isn't anything around my leg anymore. Just another hallucination. I stand up only to feel something bust into my head. I struggle to stand and taste blood in my mouth. I get up and run as fast as I can and feel a second surge of electricity hit me and my grasp on reality begins to fade. I run into the asylum and see Seabass there trying to deal with his bleeding head. He sees me and horror fills his eyes, but then is quickly replaced by determination. He gets up and runs at me. I almost run him over, but he runs around me and behind me. I hear a loud thud quickly followed by something falling to the floor. I look back and as I run and see Seabass took a hit for me, and it looks like it did him in. He is lying there, not moving. The man chasing me looks at me with those staring eyes and then stops. He grabs Seabass and drags him by the leg down around the corner out of my sight. I muster up enough courage to go look and see a set of stairs headed down with blood on them. I hear something sharp puncturing through flesh, and I run and see if I can find a way out. Watching Nargenstar get hit by that man and then be chased into the asylum was terrifying, not to mention the fact that the man chasing him could shock Nargenstar from a distance. What is this place? I find another generator and begin to work on it. After some time, I finish, and to my delight, it lights up. The gate doesn't look any different, so I assume we need more power. I go to inspect the asylum and hear groaning. My curiosity gets the best of me, and I go down the bloody stairs to see what it is. This basement has lockers and a large set of hooks in the middle, with Seabass on one. He is groaning quietly, just trying to stay awake, it appears. I walk towards him slowly and quietly. He looks up and terror fills his eyes. I start to try and take him down, but he moans, Run! I step back, startled, then hear something. I turn and see the deranged man standing there with his unending smile and white lab coat looking down at me. I run up the stairs and feel an electric shock hit me. My vision blurs and the hallway swirls and distorts. I see a window and jump through it, but hit my knee rather hard on the edge of it, cutting it. My warm blood trickles down my leg as I try to find somewhere to hide, but I don't see anything close by me to use. Nothing but open grass. Another surge of electricity hits me, and I scream. I run as fast as I can through the open yard to a metal shack in the corner. Inside, I see red lockers, and I try to open one only to see Green hiding inside with his face covered in blood. He looks at me in a panic and then realizes it's me. Dude, what are you doing? I start to explain and then feel the metal strike my head and I collapse. My vision continues to blur, and I see the man grab Green out of the locker and drops him beside me. The man stands over Green and rubs his hands together. Then he places them around Green's head, and a bright blue electric current surges through Green's mind as he screams in pain. I get to my feet and start to stumble out. The screaming stops, and I see the man turn Green over, smoke coming out of his eyes as Green is no more. I hold back the tears as I run. Over the asylum, the upper burnt level seems to dissolve like paper in a fire, and in the sky a large writhing mass of tentacles appears. From within the asylum, I see one of the tentacles take up Seabass into the sky and vanish. The asylum reappears slowly until it looks as it did before. I stumble from the blurry vision and dizziness and see Nargenstar hiding near what appears to be a trap door. He is trying to force it open, but nothing is working. I stumble and then, in horror, see the man standing behind Nargenstar. Watch out! I yell. But Nargenstar turns and sees the man, looks the man in the eye, then looks back at me. What? I see the man dissolve behind Nargenstar and I realize it really wasn't him. Just as this becomes apparent, Metal meets my head once again, and the last thing I see is the man downing Nargenstar as well before killing him, then returns to me to finish the job. Sorry, I'm getting tired. I've never done this before. Stuttering. You got you got this. You got this. All right. Oh yeah. I just think I'm crazy then. Chapter 9. Hopes and fears. Newcomers slowly wander out of the fog into our little oasis in the woods. However, they are bloody and very frightened. Not to mention there are 4 of them at once, which according to the others has never happened before. Meg greets them and tries to calm them down. I walk over with Zaya to get a closer look and see if there are more people we know. Oh my gosh, that's 2 with them. Zaya gasps as she recognizes Green. We talk to them and find out all we can. And find out we all know all of them and often play games together. Alright, everyone gather around, Dwight says nervously. We circle around him to listen. Alright, I've been doing some thinking. From what I've gathered, the entity feeds itself off of our hopes and fears. What bigger fear is there than getting a large group of friends together that think they can overcome anything, only to have one of their member turned against the rest of them? This naturally creates a hope in the back of our minds that our friend will be restored to us and that we can escape this hell. I think that is why so many of you who know each other outside of this arena are here. Makes sense, but how does that help any of us in escaping or even simply restoring Zherron back to our side? Seabass says. I think I get it. If we can starve or at least lower the amount of feeding the entity has, maybe it will begin to lose its grip on Zherron, and maybe this realm itself, Claudette ponders. Exactly. If we can at least stop being afraid from what the entity has done to Zherron and not be afraid of dying to these killers, then we might be able to starve at least a portion of the entity's diet and weaken it, Dwight says. How long do you think this will take before we be able to notice a change in the entity's behavior? Nargenstar asks. It may take a while, but we have to at least try. Bringing back one of our own is important, but escaping this nightmare is even more important, Dwight answers. So, what do you expect us to do actually begin? What do you expect us to do to actually begin to starve the entity? Bill asks. Basically, just go run at the hunter and refuse to participate in the trials. You will be hung and sacrificed, repeatedly. But if none of us show fear, then I believe we will begin to starve the entity. If we seem just indifferent to everything altogether, I think we will starve the entity on hope as well, Dwight answers. Alright, I think we get it. This is going to suck. But if we can do this and actually escape, I don't see why it wouldn't be worth a try, I say. Many of the others agree, and it's decided that everyone will try this out. Green, Zaya, Seabass, Nargenstar, 2, and I all wander a bit as what we had just agreed on starts to set in. Well, this is going to suck. But at least we know we will just end up back here again, Green states. I bet I can die faster than all of you, Nargenstar says, laughing. So long as we get to die a very gruesome ways, I'm alright, 2 says with a smile. Make sure you keep your track on how Zherron seems to respond to this. Since he's the newest of the killers, I imagine we will be able to see the change in him the most because the entity is working so directly with him right now, Zaya adds. Will do. Alrighty, everyone. I think it's time for us to go and die, I say with a grin. Chapter 10. Rescuing a Friend. The trials proved more painful than expected. Time after time, being caught and sliced or being drug away only to be placed on the hook for the entity to devour. The most difficult part is knowing that sooner or later we will face Zherron again. This match we are brutally sliced by a bone saw, another we are lacerated by a chainsaw, and another hit by throwing hatchets. You name it, we had to go through it. The most difficult part in all this was letting it happen instead of running. The hunters seemed surprised at this, but now seem like they have made it their goal to make our injuries and later deaths as painful as possible. I wonder if the entity told them to. so we would begin to fight back and provide the entity with both entertainment and sustenance. We enter another trial, gritting our teeth and holding each other's hands tight. The fog disperses as we enter the new arena. This place looks like a bog or a swamp. The mosquitoes, buzzing flies, and swarming around the decaying flesh of mud. This place is disgusting. I almost look forward to dying this time, just to get out of here. I look to my left at Green holding my hand, and Seabass holding his just down the line. I look to my right at Hardy. She gives me a smile and a nod. Dibs on first out, Seabass says. This place is so gross, I actually look forward to dying this time, I say. Come on, Zaya, look at all this mud. Wouldn't it be fun to get filthy? Hardy says to me sarcastically with a grin. I roll my eyes and then we all go silent in an instant. A sticky, sloshing sound creeps up behind us and we hear a growling. Seabass locks his eyes forward and sighs a bit, ready for the end again. I feel breathing on my neck and the growling, hissing sound is right behind me. The footsteps walk a few paces, sizing us all up. Suddenly, this creature bounces on Green and sinks her teeth into his throat. Green tries his best to hold in any screams or cries for help, but his eyes show his pain. This creature, this hag, eats portion of Green, then turns quickly looking at me. In a blur, she lunges at me, and the next thing I see is the sky, with an immense pain in my neck as I slowly fade out again. Returning to the campfire, I wait the healing it grants, and I am soothing as it begins. Hardy returns after me, followed by Seabass last this time. Green was waiting for us along with Two and the others. Guys, look, Two says, pointing at the campfire. It's going down like it's dying out. We exchange looks and we realize the healing is taking longer than it normally does. Does this mean it's starting to work? I ask. Seems to be. I wonder how much longer it'll be till we can attempt a rescue, or an escape or rescue of Zherron, Hardy says. Remember, guys, once you attempt either, you will give the entity a boost of energy again, because this will clearly show hope again. So, when you attempt it, make sure you account for the sudden burst of energy and that you can overcome it, Dwight says. We nod just as we are called into the fog again, way too early by normal standards for another trial. Seabass was the last one out and hasn't even finished healing yet. However, this time Green is left behind and replaced by Two. The rest of us are still forced to go in. Oh, sorry. We enter the fog and it clears again, showing us a new location. It's a suburban area of a town with a school in the middle. The sign reads, Badem Preschool. I look around and realize that I am not with Hardy, Two, or Seabass. I begin to look around and see if I can find anyone. My heart speeds up as I hear an all too familiar sound. The sound of metal sliding across the ground. The sound of chains. I peer around a hedge and see Zherron, or the Torturer as we have taken to calling his new form. His tattered robe blows in the slight breeze and his head is still covered by the hood. His chain is wrapped around his arm and he allows the sharp blades to slide along the ground, creating a haunting sound. He seems calm and collected, and more scarily focused. He walks towards the school looking for anyone to kill. I feel a hand on my shoulder and almost jump out of my skin. I hold back my scream as I turn to see Seabass standing there, still bleeding from the previous trial. It's Zherron, I whisper to him. His eyes widen a bit and looks around the hedge to see, only catching a glimpse of Zherron's chain. He turns back to me. I think I saw Two head into the school, but I couldn't get her attention to tell her I was behind her. Let's go in and see if we can find Two and Hardy. We need to group up and see if we can spark Zherron's memory and bring him back. We run across the street and slowly creep into the side door. We begin looking through a few classrooms and don't see any sign of Two, Hardy, or even Zherron. However, there's a large gaping hole in the floor, revealing there's a basement in this place. We find the stairs and head down. There are fires coming from the gas lines on the walls, which would normally scare me, but I've already died today, so what's one more? I hear the chains again, along with someone struggling. They found the corner. Oh gosh. We round the corner to see Zherron holding to in his chain, slowly squeezing her to death like a boa constrictor, not even allowing the blades to sink into her for a quicker, more merciful death. Hardy runs around the corner from the far hallway. "Zherron, stop!" she screams. Zherron looks up at her and smiles menacingly. Seabass charges at Zherron and tackles him to the ground. Zherron yells angrily with the chains loosen from two and latch around Seabass's leg instead and pull him to the air by his feet. During the struggle, his hood fell back, revealing his almost normal face. Zherron had the corruption marks from the entity still, but they were faded more than normal, along with bruises and burns on his face with some singed hair. Zherron glares at Seabass and lets the blade sink into his already bleeding flesh. The blades themselves glow red with a fervent heat as Seabass grits his teeth, trying his best not to scream. Two catches her breath and starts to retreat down a hallway. "No, Two, we need your help," I shout. Hardy rushes at Zherron, but instead of attacking him, she hugs him. Zherron's face changes in an instant, like someone stunned him. The blades continue to cut into Seabass, but Zherron doesn't seem to even notice his prey he is killing. Two runs up to him and joins in the hug. I hesitate, but see it seems to actually have an effect on Zherron, so I go and join the group hug. Zherron freezes up entirely, and the blades release Seabass. He falls and grunts from the pain. He looks over at us and shrugs, then joins in the hug. Something in Zherron's eyes change, and he seems almost human again. A tear falls from his eye, and we know he is no longer under the entity's corruption. We hug long and tight, then eventually start to let go. Zherron collapses to his knees on the floor, looking defeated. Hardy kneels and looks into his eyes. "Hey, don't look so upset. You caught us," she says with a giggle. "It's not that. I hurt all of you. You're all my friends, and I betrayed you," Zherron says quietly. "You didn't have a choice. The entity took over you, and as its champion," Seabass says. Zherron nods slightly and sighs in relief of being free from the influence. Suddenly, a fierce wind picks up outside, and the entity's yelling can be heard.
"No! You cannot have him! He is my champion, my servant!"
We rush outside to see the sky open, with the entity's writhing claws drop something into the street not far from us. It stands up and picks up a chainsaw from the ground. "Max," Zherron whispers. The hillbilly revs his chainsaw and sprints at us to kill us all. Chapter 11. Death of a Realm. Zherron and the hillbilly are fighting and holding nothing back. The hillbilly saws into Zherron's arm, and the chain wrapped around it, preventing the chainsaw from cutting him. Zherron punches the hillbilly in his deformed face, and the hillbilly grunts in pain, but it barely seems to faze him. The hillbilly's sledgehammer strikes Zherron in the ribs, and I hear bones breaking. Zherron winces at this, but still fights as hard as he can. His whip glows hot again and wraps around the hillbilly's ankles and pulls him up into the air. Zherron throws the hillbilly hard away into a cab nearby, setting off the alarm. The whip dims and the glow slowly dissipates. Zherron looks down, confused. "The entity has revoked my powers," he says. The hillbilly shakes his head and starts to get up. Zherron picks up a pallet and throws it at the hillbilly, hitting him in the head and knocking him back down. "Time to go," Zherron says sternly, grabbing my arm and leading us away. We head behind the preschool and find the hatch hidden behind a lit hedge. "Wait, I thought this hatch was something the entity gave us," I ask. "No, Hardy, it isn't. I'll explain in a moment, but we gotta get out of here," Zherron says. He pulls a skeleton key from his pocket and opens the hatch for us. I look at him surprised that he had that, but the sound of a chainsaw puts my priorities in order. We all jump in and find ourselves walking back to the campfire. After we catch our breaths, the questions start to flow, especially from the others who weren't in the trial. "Zherron, welcome back," Claudette says. "You guys managed to get him back?" Bill exclaims. "What did the entity do when he turned back?" Dwight asks. After a minute or so of explaining what happened, I asked Zherron where he got the key. "When we kill after the trial is over, we can walk around the arena for a little while to see if we can find any new ways to track, hunt, or even kill. I don't remember who it was, but I caught and killed one of you, and he kept the key as a trophy," he explains. "Alright. Also, who made the hatch? If the entity didn't create it, does that mean if someone can make something to escape a trial, we can make something to escape this place? I ask. My best guess is as to who made the black lot, or as you call it, the hatch, would be Benedict Baker. However, I haven't seen him, so I'm not sure if he's finally managed to escape or if the entity got tired of his attempts, Zherron answers. Hey guys, Meg exclaims. We rush over to see what it is, but she stops us, sorry. Stop! Look! In the grass, just barely visible, is the unmistakable, serrated teeth of one of the trapper's bear traps. We hear a twig snap and on the other side of the clearing and turn around. The trapper walks up just to the fire and glares at us over its dancing flames. Then next to him, the hillbilly walks up. Then Michael. Then the doctor. A bell is heard, and the wraith appears alongside them as well. We hear a scream, and the nurse appears behind us, floating just above the trap's teeth. Eventually, all the hunters we have faced are here and surrounding us, watching us closely without saying a thing. Our haven isn't off limits anymore to them, it seems. Many of them are growling or breathing heavy, excited about something. The trapper steps forward and removes his bone mask. His scarred face and bald head look almost inhuman due to the burns and sinister look in his eyes. The entity is more than just simply displeased with you, Zherron. You were its newest champion, and were rather entertaining for it to observe. However, now you have enraged it, and now you will die for it as your friends watch. They will live and continue these trials forever. You, however, will be but a faint memory, the trapper says with a dark grin. I may not have my powers, but I still have a trick or two up my sleeve, Zherron says. Zherron flicks the chain off his arm and whips the trapper's bare face with the blades cutting his eye. He yells in pain, and the other hunters charge us. Scatter! Dwight yells. Many of us run into the fog, with hunters catching up on us. David and Bill stand behind to try and slow the hunters down, but are quickly butchered. I see Zaya running nearby in the fog, with Green, 2, and Nargenstar heading ahead of us. I hear a scream to the left of me, and the nurse lunges at me with her bone saw. Zherron's chain catches her on her arm and tugs her arm away while also cutting into it. She howls and blinks away. The fog grows thicker as we enter an arena. This looks like the Coldwind Farm, but something isn't right about it. Parts of this arena are normal, but there is a dense section of fog on the ground, and then immediately another arena, partially merging with the first. It appears to be a portion of every single arena we have went through is here, somehow spliced in with the others. We run into the corn and run through a rift into the Crotus Pren Asylum, and then run to the asylum itself. Looks like home to me, Zaya remarks teasingly. Ugh, don't remind me about this place, Nargenstar says. We turn a corner, and suddenly a bell is heard, and like sparks in a fire, the wraith appeared in front of us. Seabass drops a pallet in between us and the wraith, and we jump out of side window and go through another rift into the muddy backwater swamp. We sludge through the mud into the grounded steamboat, the Pale Rose, and run up its rotting old stairs. From up there, we can see the rifts better and realize that they aren't even horizontal. The rifts create a labyrinth of ways to jump between arenas, and some appear to be in the sky, whereas others seem to be past the edge of our arena's boundaries and below ours, with nothing but a foggy void in between. This makes no sense. How can we be jumping between arenas and it seemed like flat and smooth transitions, but this is what it actually looks like? 2 asks. The realm of the entity is collapsing, and the reality in here is bending with it. We need to get out of here before the whole realm ceases to even exist. I would hate to see or feel what happens here if the entity were to die, Zherron comments. In the sky, we see the Coldwind Farm and the hillbilly chasing Dwight through the corn. Below our arena, just past the edge, we can see the wraith through a window chasing someone at Crotus Pren. Something flies past Nargenstar's head. Whoa, he says while ducking. I look over the railing down below us and see the huntress pulling another hatchet from her belt to throw. Over here, Seabass yells and jumps the far side's railing down into another arena. We follow the land We follow and land in Haddonfield. We look up and see the Huntress searching for us, but finds Ace as she enters the arena for who knows where and begins to chase him. Chapter 12. Escaping the Dreamland. Haddonfield looks almost normal. However, portions of the outer wall are missing and the void beneath it seems to be endless with no arena attached to it at all. We look around and approach one of the drop-offs outside the normal arena boundaries. Nothing but infinite abyss from the looks of it. Any ideas? I ask. I'm afraid not, Hardy, Zherron answers. This is the closest any one of the survivors has ever gotten to actually escaping. There has to be a way, Tu says. Green sits down and his head starts to slump on the side. He blinks slowly, then falls asleep. Come on, Green, this isn't the time for that, Zaya yells. Green doesn't move or respond. Zaya walks up to him and grabs him by the shoulders to shake him awake. Just as she does, Seabass passes out too. Zaya looks over frightened now and shakes Green. Wake up! She yells. Green startles awake with eyes wide open. He grabs his side and looks at his hand. It has blood on it. Blood seeps through his shirt in 4 straight lines. A new hunter in my nightmare! Green yells. Seabass coughs up blood in his sleep and Tu shakes him awake. We all get up and run as Nargenstar helps Seabass run with his arm around his side. We split up as Zherron yells that we'll figure out a way out and regroup and leave. Tu, Green, Nargenstar, and Seabass run down the street as Zherron, Zaya, and I run to the playground. We stop and hide until we think the nightmare has stopped looking for us. After we feel safe, Zherron starts to pace, thinking. After a bit, something catches his eye. A golden toolbox under a picnic table. He reaches for it and pulls it out, then opens it up. A smile spreads across his face. I think I know how to escape for good, he says. He pulls out of the toolbox an iridescent glowing key. Its purple and red glow shimmering across his face. How does it work, I ask. I'm pretty sure if we can find a black lock with this, we might actually be able to leave the realm for good and potentially fatally injure the entity by us simply escaping, Zherron answers. Why would it hurt the entity? Zaya asks. Why do you think it is so adamant about us staying? Why go through all this trouble to make sure everyone but me survives to continue feeding it? I suspect if someone were to escape it would both hurt the entity's pride along with his physical form itself, Zherron responds. Well, I've got no better ideas. Let's see what happens, I say. We run around and finally find a black lock behind one of the houses hidden in the grass. Zherron puts the iridescent key into it. Glowing lines of purple and red appear in the creases of the lock itself and grow brighter. The hatch itself springs open in a swirling vortex of shimmering purple, red, and blue is inside the hatch instead of its usual black mist. I gasp at the beauty and the thought of escape, and then an odd feeling falls over me. I feel drowsy, and I collapse. Looking up, I see Zherron grab a hold of me and pull me to the hatch. Behind him, a figure with 4 claws on his right hand, wearing a striped sweatshirt, walks towards me to kill me. He lunges at me with his claw outstretched just as Zherron throws me into the hatch. The feeling subsides, and I see the man standing there, growing smaller as I fall into this void of color. The opening shrinks, and I barely make out others jumping in. The swirling sea of color around me slowly dims, and soon all I see is black as I pass out. I awaken in my own bed, like it was any other normal day. I gasp and look around and try to figure out if it was all a dream. Nothing. Nothing to tell me if it was real or not. I pace around angrily, trying to find any clue. Defeated and annoyed, I sit down at my computer and begin to check what time it is and the date. It had only been a few hours since I last checked the time, and it seems like I had just fallen asleep or something. Maybe it was all just a dream. Something that crazy couldn't possibly be real, let alone me be a part of. I go downstairs to make some coffee. As I reach for the mug, something catches my eye. 4 scabbed scratch marks on my forearm. Epilogue. A considerable amount of time has passed since we escaped that realm. Our friendships have gotten much stronger after the ordeal, and we talk about it frequently. However, we keep these facts to ourselves. No need to make people think we are crazier than we already are. Some of us even Sorry, excuse me. Some of us even took the time to go and physically visit each other, to simply hang out and make sure we are okay. I kept my chain whip when I fell through the portal, and was pleased to find it laying on the floor waiting for me when I woke up. It is so simple, yet it's so cool. Not to mention the powers I had for a while that enabled me to manipulate it with deadly precision. I touched the handle, remembering the fight with Max and Sally I had during our escape. I smile, pleased that I had felt like a protector of my friends. I let go of the hilt and began to walk away when I noticed something. At my touch, the blades had begun to glow once again. And that is it, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Sorry for my stuttering. Never done something like that.
I just realized my camera's like all the way up in the air. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this story. For the people who sent critiques and positive, what's the word I'm looking for? Comeuppance? It's not reinforcement. What am I looking for? I will gladly pass that along to Monsieur Zherron. If you guys give us like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, we will be back with a Dead by Daylight stream, and stay tuned. Spread this story as much as you can. Spread it far, spread it wide. Spread it far, spread it wide. Spread it far, and spread it wide.
You see why I was tripping over my words.
Hey now, I always stumble. But give us a little break, and we shall return. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see y'all in a little bit.
Laters.
Bye!